How can we converge any image type into a 3D mesh without modeling it in Blender? So we got this logo here, the KFC logo. I'd like to drag it and turn it into 3D model in Blender. So here I'd like to select all the elements that we got in Blender 5, press X and delete it. And after that, I'd like to be on the top orthographic. So right now we are on the user perspective, but we can press 7 to switch to the top orthographic. So after that, we can simply drag our logo and drop it here. Also, I'd like to have it centered, so we can press N, jump to the item, and we can left click and drag down. We can press 0 to have it centered. So now our logo is centered. All right, so the next step is going to be to convert this image into mesh plane. But also I want you to not exit this top orthographic. So for example, if we switch outside, if we press the middle mouse, you're going to lose that image. But if you want to make it visible in the perspective as well as the orthographic, you can just click here on the object data properties and you can check this perspective. And now we can go back. Let me just select my plane. You can do right click and convert it to mesh plane. We can just click on OK. And after that, we have to add the displace modifier so that we can pop up our logo. So let me just left click here and we can jump to the modifiers. And I'd like to add the displace modifier, this one right here. So after that, we have to load our texture. So down here, we have these texture properties. We can just click on it and add a new image, and we can just open that KFC logo. So we can just double click here. So now it's loaded. So if you want to see it, all you have to do is to add or subdivide our plane. So we can select it, switch to the edit mode, Control E, subdivide, and we can increase the subdivisions up to, let's say, 30. So now if we go back to the object mode, so the displace modifier is working, but we have to adjust these settings here. So instead of having it set to local, it needs to be set to UV. All right. So from here, all we have to do is to add more subdivisions. So on the edit mode, you can try Control E, subdivide, and let me just increase that number of cuts. So let's say 6. All right, let's go back to the object mode. There we go. So we start seeing our logo. Also here, I'd like to take it down, that strength, something like 0.3. It's gonna be fine. So even though we got some ups and downs, we're gonna fix that later. So also I'd like to add more subdivisions so that we can get rid of this pixelation. So on the edit mode, you can try Control E, subdivide 2 times. Okay, even though it's going to be rough a little bit, but let me just take a look. There we go. So now our logo looks much more better. All right, so now let's start the optimization process of our logo here. And we need to start by deleting these spaces that we don't need. So what we can do, we can press 1 to be facing the front. And we need to switch to the edit mode so that we can select the bottom. But as you can see, it's still just a plane. So what we have to do, we have to apply the displace modifier from here. So now if we switch to the edit mode, it's going to be an entire mesh. So you can press Z, switch to wireframe, and we can select only the bottom plane like this part here. And we can press X and delete those vertices. So now we are left with only the logo. Let me just switch back to the object mode so that we can see it. So also I'd like to bring the reference image so that we can keep an eye on it. So we can just split this window into 2 parts, switch here to the image editor, and we can bring this logo, the KFC logo. All right, so after that, what I'd like to do, I'd like to flatten up our logo so we can switch to the edit mode, just so that we can fix this problem that we got here. We can try A and SZ and press 0. There we go. So we got it flat and it looks better. All right, so next step is going to be to extrude it up, because we don't need to have this geometry at the center. So what we can do, we can press A to select everything, and we can press E to extrude it up like this. So this we're going to be able to grab the edges of our logo. So if we go to select sharp edges, we're going to be selecting this edge. All right, so we got the edges selected, but all we need is just either the top or the bottom edge. So I'd actually press 1 and we can press Z, make sure that we are on the wireframe. We can press B and hold shift so that we can deselect the bottom. After that, we can just shift D to duplicate this, and we can drag it to the right side. We can press P to separate selection, and we can go back here to the object mode, and we can just delete this part. Press X and delete it. So now we are left with this. So after that, we can press 7 to go to the top, and let me just zoom in here. I'd like to add the smooth modifier so that we can smooth this edge. So inside the modifiers here, we can add a new modifier. It's gonna be the smooth, the third one here, and we can increase that up to something like this, and same thing for the repetition. I'd like to increase them up something like 10. 10 is gonna be fine. And after that, on the edit mode, we can press A to select everything, and we can press F to fill the gaps. Also here we can press Z, switch back to solid. And there we go. So we got the logo here. So we can also texture it. So I'd like to split my window here into two parts like this. So the left side is going to be for the UV editor. So we can press tab to select everything. We can press A to select everything. And we have to fix the UVs. So the best way to fix the UVs, we can just press U and project from view bounds. Like this, we can just scale it just a bit down to make it fit our texture here. And basically we got it. So let me just control space to maximize this, and let me just drag it a little bit. We can press GX and drag it a little bit to the side. Scale it a little bit up. GY, drag it down. Alright, so control space, and we can press Z here, switch geometry preview. There we go, so we got it here. Looks better. So we can also add here the solidify modifier. So let me just add the solidify to give it some depth. We can increase that thickness to something like 0.1 and press enter. And after that, we can flip some faces. We can press A, Shift N, and let's flip to the inside. But actually we have to flip one by one. So the mustache, Shift N, flip inside. Same thing here for the eye. And this object to Shift N and flip them both to the inside. Alright, so there we go. So we converted our 2D image into 3D model in Blender without modeling it.